So by now you guys have been calling and calling, and you may have come across some opportunities, but maybe the numbers just haven't working out, right? You've been able to talk to them. You've been able to figure out how much they want for the property, but the numbers just don't work. So now I'm going to teach you guys how to maximize every opportunity. Say you come across a deal that's $100,000, is what they want for the property. Now at $100,000, the numbers just don't work, right? Maybe it's rented at, $800 a month. So maybe, it's better for a $60 to $70,000 purchase, right? So at $60,000, $70,000, it's a great wholesale deal. You can get the numbers off, you get it to work for your end buyer. But at $100,000, they don't work unless you do what's called, creative financing. So it's important to be able to offer this to your seller because you are able to give them a different exit strategy besides the normal. Welcome to day number 6 of how to get your first wholesale deal. And this is how to get your first wholesale deal. So this is how to get it, not how to sell it. I teach you guys about selling it and the difference of it in that video in the description. So click that video in the description, how to acquire your, or the acquisitions versus dispositions. But I'm going to teach you guys in this series just about getting the deal. So with that example I just gave you, the reason why you have to be able to, maximize your opportunity by way of seller financing is because you can offer them $100,000, but it's going to be over the course of 10 years. So you can say, hey, Mr. Seller, your property is worth $100,000, but maybe 10 years from now. You don't actually say it like that because that's rude, but this is how you say it. So when you look at on the screen right there, I just typed it up for you guys. What I want you guys to do though, you see this on the screen, take a screenshot of it, right? This is perfect. This is all you need to know in this video, but you should stay to the end because I got a lot more information to share. But you guys, in order to really introduce that to your seller, you have to confidently know why it's important, right? So I'm not just going to tell you why it's important, right? I'm not going to just tell you that it's important. I'm going to actually let you know why it's important. The reason why it's important is because if the numbers don't work, then you are able to still offer your seller an exit strategy, and you are able to still possibly get paid from the deal and close the deal. So you are able to add another tool to your tool belt, whereas somebody else may not even have the knowledge to be able to do this. So definitely stay to the end if you want to know the whole reason why. But what I just showed you is what you would send to your client via email. All right. Now, what you're going to send to your client, the reason why you're going to send that is because say you have somebody, right? Now, in the example I gave you, can say that the property is rented, right? So say if you have a rental property, someone is renting that property out. So with somebody renting that property out, the person who's selling it, maybe they don't like to be a landlord, or they're just tired of owning the property, or maybe the property is actually vacant and they're tired of having a vacant property. That being said, you come in with the perfect solution. Hey, Mr. Seller, I can get you your $100,000 and, over the course of X amount of time. And that amount of time, is because I can help you stop being a landlord, and I'll be able to take care of all the expenses for the property. Now, you're not going to say it like that. You're going to say it exactly how I just printed it off, or how I just typed it up for you guys specifically. That's how you're going to send it to your client. And you are going to be able to tell your client over the phone though, say, hey, Mr. Seller, I would love to be able to offer you, give you the $75,000 or $100,000 for the property, but it just doesn't work at that price. However, for a cash offer, it won't work. However, if we were able to, maybe do it over a 5-year period, would that be something you're interested in getting more details about? What do you mean by a 5-year period? How about this, Mr. Seller? Can I get your email address, and I'll actually be able to email you over more information about, what I'm talking about here. That way you'll be able to understand more in depth, and then I'll follow up with you with any other questions you may have. That sound good? How does that sound? That sounds good. Perfect. What's your email? And he gives you your email address. She gives you your email address. You write it down and you send them exactly what I just showed you. Guys, what that does, again, it gives you another route. Now, let me explain to you a little bit more what seller financing is. Now, I typed it out. You are going to be the person that's covering the expenses for the property. You are going to be the person that's covering the, the upkeep of the property, the repairs, everything for the property. And when I say expenses, I'm talking about insurance and taxes, everything, right? And if there's a mortgage, right? So you need to ask your seller, is there a mortgage on the property? And if there is a mortgage on the property, you need to be able to say, how much is on the property. You got to figure that out and figure out what the monthly payments are. And what you're actually going to need is a payoff from the mortgage company. So you're going to have to do a 3-way call with your seller, the mortgage company, and they'll give you authorization. Or you can send what's called a third-party authorization to the seller and have them sign it and email it back over to you. Now you can send that to the actual, let's say if the bank was Fifth Third, the mortgage company was Fifth Third, you would send that over to Fifth Third. Now, Fifth Third will be able to communicate with you on behalf of the seller, okay? So you will be able to learn everything about the mortgage and everything you need to know. So including the monthly payments. So you got to know the monthly payments, and you want to hear this all from the actual, mortgage company. And you actually want them to send you a copy of the mortgage if possible. That's if you're keeping it for yourself. Again, that's how I got my first rental property. But, if you're going to be selling this to somebody else, you just have to know the ins and outs of it. That way you can assign it to somebody else. The assignment works the same way. However, I want you to know one thing, and I'm serious about this. One thing. Let me just take one pause before I say this. Guys, this is very important. If you think this is not important, if you feel like it's too much, maybe you just feel like you want to focus on one thing, I understand that. In the beginning, you just focused on wholesaling because seller financing can be a bit much. However, if you make the attempt to learn this, you will set yourself apart from the crowd. Trust me. So the fact that you know the technique, now if you want to use it, is a different reason. But if you know the technique, then you know what it looks like to have the deal there. Now, let me jump back into this. The one thing with the seller financing, if you assign it to somebody else and they stop making the payments, right? The mortgage payments, whatever payments, you are ultimately responsible because you're assigning the contract. That means that you still have an interest in it, right? If that person, this other party, doesn't hold up to their interest, then you have to hold up to your interest before it goes back to the seller. So just keep that in mind, that you are still somewhat involved if they want to be technical, okay? So the good part about this though, instead of you taking a loan out from the bank, because you can do this with a 4-family, a 6-family, a freaking single family. It can go, there's no limit to what you can do this with. The seller is now the bank. It's private financing, you feel me? So with that being private financing, then you have to be able to, uphold your end of the bargain by paying, but at the same time, your credit is not at stake, which is great. There's no credit checks, you get what I'm saying? No credit checks or anything like that. So if you do default for whatever reason, which you shouldn't, and there should be a clause in there that, you default, then the deed itself or the rights, everything goes back to the seller, but it doesn't affect your credit, which is a great thing. So this is a great reason why you should use seller financing. Again, it's another no money down technique. You can do all of this with no money down. Typically, you're going to have a seller that just wants to get rid of the property and they want to find however way to get rid of it, all right? So this is just offering them another way to give them their money. And I would suggest that you guys do it, you saw what I put on the paper. I would suggest that you guys do it over, a 5-year period, right? A 5-year period, but then still do a 10-year period with your numbers, right? So, excuse me, a 5-year period with the expected payoff date, right? So what you would tell your seller with a balloon payment within 3 years, right? So a balloon payment is like you paying off the rest that's left. What I want you guys to also know, this is your seller being a bank, but you're also not mentioning a interest rate. So this is money with 0% interest, guys. That's amazing. So you are in a great position by doing this technique, and you just don't bring up the interest rate, right? In my experience, the seller doesn't really think about the interest rate. They're just thinking about the money. So you don't bring up interest rate, you'll be having a 0% interest rate, right? So, and also when it comes to money down, guys, you don't have to put money down to your seller. Now, one way you will be able to get this done though, stay with me. I got a couple more minutes. Stay with me. One way you will be able to get this done is if you offer your seller a little bit of money, right? So what you would do with this, right, is, and I'll give you guys a little bit of insight of how to sell it. What you would do is with your end buyer, you would say, hey, look, the assignment is, 10K, right? Whatever that is. So you'll say the down payment is 10K. That's what you'll say. The down payment is 10K for what the deal is, right? So the down payment is 10K. Now, what this means is the down payment is the down payment, but at the same time, you can distribute how much you want to actually go to the principal balance, being that $100,000 is the principal balance. So that down payment, let's say $10,000, right? So now let's say you got a relationship with your end buyer. You don't want to just do them more dirty, but at the same time, you want to eat, right? And you want to make sure the seller eats. So say you tell the seller, when you one of your convincing things with the seller, you had to give them a couple bucks, right? In my experience, $500 to $1,000 works perfect with these kind of deals to give to your seller, because they're grateful for you to even take the deal. You oftentimes don't have to give them anything. You really don't unless you bring it up. So that being said, let's just say give them, $1,000. So $1,000 to your seller, you tell the end buyer you need a $10,000 down payment, right? $1,000 to your seller, you take, let's say $8,000. So then $1,000 goes to the actual principal. So you'll tell your seller $10,000 down payment. And my experience, the seller doesn't even ask why. If they want the deal, they want the deal. They don't ask why the down payment. Why the down payment? Because that's what it is at the end of the day. They don't know what's going on with the down payment. But if you got a good experience with them, good relationship, you tell them that, hey, look, $1,000 of that is actually going to go to the principal. So we'll knock off, it'll be $99,000 owed over the next, 10 years with the balloon payment in 3 years, or with the balloon payment at any time without a penalty. That's another thing you want to add in your contract, okay? So that is a great deal for your end buyer, and that's the way you sell it with your end buyers, is by just really telling them what everything you told the seller, except for the tax benefit. And again, there's a tax benefit with this because your seller still holds the property in their name. However, they're not doing the upkeeps or paying tax expenses, but they still can, file with, taxes, depreciations, all that type of taxes or whatever with their, with their income statement, with their tax statement or whatever. So that is another benefit. Guys, a ton of benefits with this technique. Utilize it. Day number 6. The reason why you should utilize it, again, it's more tools on your tool belt. You want to come across a lot of people where the numbers may not work, but this is another option where they may accept it because you don't know what position they may be in life, and you're somebody who's a solution provider, and you're providing solutions that some people just don't even know about. Some people don't even see an opportunity if they're not looking for it. Some people don't see a Picasso painting on the wall if they don't know that Picasso was painting that picture. You get what I'm saying? Guys, at the end of the day, as long as your heart is in every step, then you are already a success. None of this even matters. As always, get the stepping.